Hello, everyone. Once again, it's Charlie and Terry here with another exciting talk. And Terry, what is our subject today?
It's my favorite baseball player.
Ernie Banks?
No, it's Eddie Gaedel.
Eddie Gaedel. Who ever heard of Eddie Gaedel? And I guess that's why we're having this little episode. I
Yes,
noticed you got your attire, your Chicago Cubs, and your. I don't
this
know
hat
that I've
is
seen a hat like that before.
it's from the St. Louis Browns. It's an official replica of the 1951 St. Louis Browns hat.
Okay,
And
well, I'm glad you know that. Hey, let me ask you though, why do they call them Brown? The baseball team names are weird. You got Browns and White Sox and Reds and nothing like football where you got, the Bears and the Lions and you got Eagles. The only birds you have in baseball are Orioles and
Blue Jays. Blue Jays.
right? And the Tigers is about the only team that has any kind of ferocious animal, right?
yeah, but who really cares? And
Well,
in
no,
those
but
days,
how
well,
did they get started?
Cardinals.
Why
Yeah,
are
the Cardinals.
That's
Yeah,
a bird. That's
yeah, it's a
one.
bird. Yeah, yeah, but the Browns, I guess, were called Browns because they wore brown uniforms, like the
Okay.
Red Legs
Yeah.
had
White Sox.
White
Red
Sox,
Sox.
Red Sox. Yeah,
All right.
so I guess that's what.
Wasn't
But
very imaginative.
but going back, a
Well,
little.
where I guess I just took us on a segue before we got started.
I guess
right?
so. But anyways, the St. Louis
So-
Browns were kind of a feckless baseball team. They actually only won one pennant in their entire existence, and that was 1944 during World War II, where everybody had their 4F players of the over the hill gang, and
Okay.
the Browns actually had a one-armed outfielder at that time. But in 1951, Bill Veeck owned the St. Louis Browns, and Bill Veeck was a famous baseball entrepreneur. He was ahead of his time in terms of promotions, and Veeck was in the battle of against the St. Louis Cardinals for attendance, and so on August the 19th, 1951, there was a doubleheader between the Browns and the Tigers, and they were at Sportsman's Park, which was the St. Louis Browns stadium.
I bet it was in St. Louis.
It was in St. Louis.
Yeah,
Yes, it was in
fantastic.
St. Louis, and there was a doubleheader, and then the second game of the doubleheader, when the Browns came to bat
Was this in the first inning?
in the first inning, very first inning, when the Browns came to bat, there was a pinch hitter announced for the leadoff man, and out walks this 3 foot 7 inch player in a uniform, Eddie Gaedel, and he wore the uniform number was 1/8. So he walks to the plate, and pandemonium breaks out. The manager for the Detroit Tigers come out, and he's saying, "This is a mockery. This is ridiculous." Ed Hurley was the home plate umpire, and so Bill Veeck and Zach Taylor, who was the St. Louis Browns manager, had a contract already signed and approved by the league for Eddie Gaedel. And
So
after
they concocted this way ahead of the.
Oh, yeah. This was all planned out by Veeck.
Spontaneous.
Yes,
right?
this was all planned out by Veeck, because Veeck knew that when he had the contract signed Friday night and submitted it to the league, and they just approved it
Okay.
and wouldn't get to it he knew the league wouldn't get to it until Monday. So, Ed Hurley, after seeing the contract, says, "Okay, batter up." So the pitcher was Bob Kane,
Yeah.
and the catcher was Bob Swift. And Swift says to Bob Kane, "Keep it low." So Bob Kane tried his best with the first two pitchers to get it over the plate, but they had measured Eddie Gaedel's batting stance, and he had a 1.5 inch strike zone. So, and the last two pitches, Bob Kane was just laughing
he
and
just
just lobbed
broke
it in.
out, right?
He just
Yeah.
broke out, and so Eddie Gaedel walks on 4 pitchers, and Eddie, on his way to first base, takes 2 bows to the stands. The fans gave him a standing ovation, and Eddie walks to first base, and then he's pulled for a pinch runner.
And that was his one and only appearance, right?
One and only appearance.
On-base appearance was 1,000, right?
Yes, his on-base percentage is 1,000, probably the best in any. He has one appearance, and he appears in the Baseball Encyclopedia for that appearance. He is actually in the Baseball Encyclopedia. But a little bit about Bill Veeck. Veeck was like a showman. He introduced the exploding scoreboard at Comiskey Park when he owned the White Sox, and they still have that. And he also when his father was president of the Cubs at one time, and he helped plant the ivy in the outfield.
It's still there.
Which is
Wrigley,
still there,
right?
Wrigley Field, yes. So Veeck was a tremendous baseball, entrepreneur.
Yeah, baseball's not what it used to be. I don't
No,
think.
well,
None of that creativity.
no, well, they still tried to
yeah.
bring in fans. They have promotions and things like that. But in those days,
Not a stunt like
not
Eddie
a stunt
Gaedel.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, after Eddie made his one and only appearance, the league voided the contract.
Yeah.
And
Well, not only that, I read somewhere too that now the commissioner has to approve the contract before a player can actually even appear in a game.
right, which prompted Veeck to say that, well, at that time, Phil Rizzuto had won the MVP the year before, and Veeck said, and Rizzuto was 5'6", which was pretty short for a baseball player, and Veeck quipped that he wanted an investigation to determine whether or not Rizzuto was just a small baseball player or a large midget.
So anyway, sports is, I think, maybe a lot different. I was just looking or watching the college championship football game the other day, and somebody made an announcement. One of the guys made an announcement that the average ticket price for the college playoff game was over $4,000. That's
Wow.
just the average. And I was just checking out for the Super Bowl. I think the lowest, cheapest ticket is going to be somewhere around $6,000. And they probably will go, if you want a primo seat somewhere, it'll be $100,000 a ticket.
That's terrible.
Can you imagine?
You can't take your family to a baseball game or a sports game at all now.
Baseball games are a little better still.
Baseball
I think.
games are a little better because there's 162.
There's a lot of enough games.
Yeah, you get enough games where, they spread it out a little bit so they don't have to pay for their players. Football, what do they get? 16, 17, 18 games. Baseball's 162, so it's a little better. But, when I started going to Cubs games, the bleacher seats were 50 cents. The grandstands were $1, and the box seats were $3.50 for the.
Well, we had a little technical difficulty. I think our camera overheated. We're almost finished with our little discussion. You were I don't think you quite finished talking about baseball tickets back when you started going to Cubs games.
Well, when I was a teenager, the box seat. I was saying the box seats were the first 10 rows were $3.50, and the rest of the box seats were $3. So it was great to get in. But what happened to Eddie after the game?
Well, that was the question. Eddie had kind of an unhappy, unfortunate end. He was only just turned 36, right? And I guess he was on his way home from a bowling alley. I don't think he was employed at the time, but he ended up, he was beaten, I think, and then he died the next day, I guess. And,
yeah, his mom found him dead in his bed.
And the report said it was a heart attack.
Right.
And that was where they left it. There was no further investigation, I guess.
No.
So that's definitely seems a little abrupt to me that something like that should happen.
To a famous baseball player.
Yes, exactly.
He was unique.
He was unique. So anyway, I think we're pretty well ready to wrap up. And
Well,
I don't know if you have any last minute
the only-
comments here.
Yeah, two comments. First of all, his funeral. Bob Kane was the only
Yeah. Only
baseball
professional
player
baseball player
who
right?
showed up at his funeral. And years later, in 1991, Mike Veck, who was Bill Veck's son, owned a minor league baseball team, and to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Eddie Gaedel's pinch hitting, he actually reenacted that with Bob Kane pitching to, I think it was the manager's 9 or 10-year-old son.
Wow.
And the uniform that Eddie Gaedel wore pinch hitting that day, August 19th, 1951, is in the St. Louis Cardinal Museum in St. Louis.
All right. So he's commemorated at least.
Yes.
And with that, I think it's a good time to end it. And thank you all for paying attention if you got this far. So stay tuned for our next exciting episode. And as soon as we figure it out, we'll put it out there. Take care.
Bye now.